Hello and welcome to the program UFO Warning. In this episode, we're looking at the latest document dump from the federal government on these UFOs. You can find them over at war.gov. Kind of a collection of stuff from the U.S. Army and the FBI so far that I've found. A lot of old World War II stuff. Interesting. It's almost like it is a cookie crumb trail or something, a breadcrumb trail that we're following here. Some of the stuff I just have to wonder, did they know it was there and they left it top secret all this time, or did they just kind of forget about it? I don't know, but anyway, this first one I want to look at, it's 185 pages. There's so much stuff in here. Luckily, I've got AI, Gemini popped up and said, hey, do you want me to summarize this for you? So I said, yeah, I'm in. It says the document is a collection of declassified FBI files and correspondence from July and August 1947 regarding investigations into the flying saucer phenomena sweeping the United States at the time. It highlights how the FBI and military agencies handled public reports tracking whether they were genuine threats, optical illusions, or elaborate hoaxes. The Grafton, Wisconsin disc, July 1947, that seems to be a big one. It says, early news reports indicated that a Catholic priest, Reverend Joseph Brasky, claimed a hot 18-inch sheet metal disc with internal gadgets and wires crashed into his yard after making a whirring noise and a mild explosion. The reality, internal FBI memos later revealed that the story was a prank. The special agent in charge, SAC in Milwaukee, reported that the priest was reportedly intoxicated, and the object was actually just a circular saw outfitted with wires and small tubes thrown into the yard by a prankster. Now that seems weird. The Heimberg Avenue analysis. An object reported to have fallen near 2319 Heimball Avenue was analyzed by chemistry students at the Creighton College Dentistry. The ashes were found to contain sodium, potassium, iron, aluminum, carbonate, sulfate, and unburned carbon, the exact chemical makeup of ordinary pipe tobacco. All right. The F.J. Harrison Report, New Orleans. A brief teletype message from the New Orleans FBI office quickly dispatches another flying disc discovery found by an individual named F.G. Harrison, officially declaring it to be a prank. Official and expert reactions. Mass hysteria theories. Dr. Winfield Overholser, a prominent psychiatrist and superintendent of St. Elizabeth Hospital, likened the widespread sightings to national hysteria reminiscent of historical witchcraft scares, noting that human imagination easily feeds into such trends. I'll just interject here a little bit with the witchcraft trials. Go back and look at your history on that and find out what happened. That's some crazy stuff. Actually, a lot of times the women that were accused, and it's mostly women, were widows. And I guess the way it worked, if they were convicted of being a witch, then they could take the property from them. So there was a money motive there. And a lot of these gals, because of the Puritan religion, as I understand it, if they would admit that they were witches and ask for forgiveness publicly, then the death penalty would be suspended and they would just kind of become a social outcast. And then, as I understand it, they would go ahead and take all their land and their wealth anyway. But these people were had so much integrity that they would die before they would falsely admit to something in order to save their own life. So that really adds a lot of complexity into that whole story. I think when you think about the love of money there being the real motive, and it wasn't so much that maybe some of the people on the bottom were caught up in hysteria, but when you really get into that whole Salem witch trial thing, you find that the people that were pulling the levers were had finances to gain. And then, of course, this whole thing just went on until I think it was the governor's wife who was accused by these girls who had just, for all intent and purpose, had fallen into total psychosis. And when they started to attack the power structure, that's when the power structure moved in and said, yeah, that'll be enough of that. Now, going on, it says Optical Illusions Howard W. Blakeseal, an Associated Press science editor, argued that the structureless flat appearance of saucers perfectly matched known optical tricks the eyes play on people at maximum viewing distances. Major General Curtis E. LeMay stated firmly that whatever the public was seeing had nothing to do with Army Air Force guided missiles experiments, stating, as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing to it at all. Public concerns, the file contains anonymous letters from citizens expressing fear that foreign adversaries might be using the disk to disperse explosive or biological germs over the United States. Well, you could kind of understand why people might think that. I mean, even today we sometimes think that. Just quickly here, read some of this article about this priest. The headlines say, priest finds whirring disc in yard and holds it for FBI. And this is July 6th, 1947. It says, a Catholic priest at Grafton, Wisconsin, said tonight that a round metal disc, which might be one of the mysterious flying saucers, had landed in his parish yard, and he was holding it for the FBI. Then it goes on, just talks about it a little bit. Yeah, it does sound like it probably was, just like they said, a circular saw blade with some wires attached to it. In 1947, no television really to speak of, no internet, and people just, they had the radio, but everything just kind of went by word of mouth. And it has a couple letters here back and forth talking about this. And you can tell people were really scared. They were clearly almost in a panic state about these flying saucers that they were hearing about. And of course, this would have been just after the bombs were dropped on Japan, the beginning of the atomic age. You can kind of understand why at the time the government would have thought that, well, if we have too much of this UFO stuff out, it could induce panic in people. But I'll tell you what, we've come a long ways in the last 70 or 80 years, and I think we're well past this. And these articles, they just prove that. I mean, why in the world would this stuff here, these run-of-the-mill UFO stories from 1947, 1948, why in the world would these things ever have been classified secret in the first place? I kind of think it's almost like these guys are just creating a job for themselves to create top secret and secret information just so that they'll have something to do all day, I guess. That is really wild. We'll go ahead and look at it. So here's another one of these files. This one is dated 1945. Actually, a memorandum, March 18th, 1945, it says, from Supreme Headquarters, Allied Expeditionary Force. And I ran this through AI and asked it, first off, just to go through these, multiple pages of stuff and tell me what it could find. And it says, this is not primarily a German armament file. The pages I examined are a collection of declassified Allied intelligence and military communications from early 1945 concerning mysterious aerial objects observed by Allied aircrews, what later became known as the World War II Foo Fighter phenomena. Now, here again, why are we keeping this stuff locked up under, top secret clearance or whatever for the last 81 years? It says Allied Command investigated night phenomena. Like I said, a memorandum dated March 18th, 1945 from Supreme Headquarters, Allied Expeditionary Force. And it says it discusses night phenomena, Foo Fighters, unusual aerial lights, and objects seen by pilots. The memo states that the British Air Ministry had reviewed the reports and concluded that some sightings may have been German Me-262 jet aircraft, others were possibly flak rockets. Well, if they would have had drones back then, they would have called them drones too. However, the document also admits that no definitive explanation was available. Yeah, they looked at this thing. They couldn't describe, or they couldn't determine what it was, so they just start, throwing mud against the wall. Number 2, it says, Air Ministry admitted the mystery was unsolved. One of the most interesting pages contains a response from the British Air Ministry. Quote, the whole affair is still something of a mystery, and the evidence is very sketchy and varied, so that no definite and satisfactory explanation can yet be given. Yeah, that's the unidentified part of the unidentified flying object. This is notable because it shows Allied intelligence could not fully explain the reports. I don't think they could explain them at all. 3. Reports of a cylindrical object. Now, this is cool because, we hear about cylinder UFOs now, but even back then. Several pages discuss a pilot report describing an aluminum-colored cylindrical object approximately 12 to 16 feet long, roughly 1 foot in diameter, seen floating at about 9,000 feet. Now, notice floating, not flying. Appeared suspended vertically, had fins and a mast-like projection. The report states the object was attacked by aircraft. A red flame appeared. No smoke was observed. The object did not immediately disintegrate. Aerial photographs were reportedly attempted, but were unsuccessful. So many times we hear about people trying to take pictures of these UFOs and this camera doesn't work. Yeah, I'm thinking that what did those fighter planes have on it? 50 cals? You put a few of those babies into one of these things and you would have thought there would have been a couple holes in it. Number 4, Allied intelligence considered German weapons. One-page reference, flak bomb. That's spelled flak bomb, B-O-M-B-E, and suggests that the observed object may have been related to unknown German anti-aircraft weapons discussed in previous intelligence reports. Well, if those Germans were managing to have their flak bombs suspended at 20, 30, 40,000 feet, just hanging out there with no visible means of support or propulsion, that's concerning. This indicates investigators were actively trying to determine whether the objects were secret German military devices. Concern among air crews and other member states, pilots and crews are becoming slightly worried about them. The document recommends that air technical intelligence officers interview the crews directly because the reports were becoming numerous enough to warrant investigation. Sounds like every time one of these crews goes up, they're seeing something. Historical significance. These papers are important because they show Allied intelligence took Foo Fighter reports seriously. The reports were circulated through the official military channels. British and American intelligence investigated the sightings. No firm explanation had been reached by March 1945. Now, possible explanations included Me-262 jet fighters, flak rockets, experimental German weapons, unknown atmosphere. I guess they forgot to include swamp gas. Yet the documents repeatedly acknowledged that the evidence remained inconclusive. They didn't have a clue what these things were. UFO research perspective, it says, from a UFO history standpoint, these are among the classic wartime documents often cited as evidence that military personnel were encountering unexplained aerial phenomena before the modern UFO era began with the 1947 Roswell incident. The most intriguing item in the file is the report of the metallic cylindrical object with fins observed at 9,000 feet because it appears to describe a physical object rather than simply lights in the sky. Yeah, and I almost wonder if these UFOs aren't, doing their camouflage thing again. Maybe they're picking up on these German rockets and they're just thinking, hey, this is a cool way for us to look. That's what seems to be going on. And another thing, they're seeing these things over a war zone. I still think a lot of these, at least some of these UFOs, seem to me to be attracted to human trauma. It goes on here, it says, I had to go ahead and review some more documents. And it said, I reviewed the document and can provide a page-by-page analysis. This appears to be declassified Allied intelligence file from January to March 1945 concerning the investigations of night phenomena or Foo Fighters reported by Allied crews over Europe during World War II. Then it goes through here and just gives the different pages. You have the SHEF memorandum, that's the Supreme Allied Command there, March 26, talking about reports forwarded through 12 Tactical Air Command. You have page 2, British Air Ministry response. They're saying the same thing, bomber crews reporting it. They're speculating on a little bit. Page 3, requests for photographs, but of course the photographs, as far as we know, don't materialize. Page 4, signals traffic. It says a communications page concerning German bomb torpedoes and weapon stockpiles. So you can kind of see they're just kind of grasping around here. They've got a follow-up cable. They've got 9 tactical air command message. It says photos of long cylindrical objects taken by pilots were unsuccessful. So that tells me that they're probably seeing these things repeatedly. They're going up, they're seeing them, and then you think you would have to have probably a spatial crew to be able to take pictures of these things, unless maybe they had them on their gun cameras or something. But like they said, attempts to take pictures were unsuccessful. Then we have page 7, a detailed report. Page 8, more reports. Page 9, the summary, basically what went over. It says, talking about these cylindrical sightings, aluminum colored, cylindrical, approximately 16 feet long, about a foot in diameter, hovering at 9,000 feet. Vertical orientation, small fins, mass projecting from lower end. Pilot attacked the object. Well, this is World War II, baby, and these are fighter pilots, and the word fighter is in that title for a reason. See something, attack something. That's so cool. Observed results, object partially collapsed or deflated. Red flame appeared. No smoke observed. Object did not immediately disintegrate. Photographs were attempted but failed. This is arguably, says, the most interesting report in the file. Yeah, funny how it reacted to it, but it doesn't say then if it just disappeared or what. Obviously, it didn't blow it up. It said object partially collapsed or deflated. Red flame appeared. No smoke observed. Object did not immediately disintegrate. I mean, he just filled this thing full of 50 cal, or whatever caliber he had on that fighter plane, and it's still hovering. It's pretty amazing. Air Ministry technical opinion, British intelligence suggests the object may be connected to flak bombs. Yeah, at some point, they just have to make up something, right? And then it goes on, talks about the concern among air crews, the fact that they can't explain these things, the fact that they're going to keep they have requested that they keep being investigated. Doesn't seem like it really had much of effect. And then it says page 14, original Foo Fighter report. This is the famous 415th Night Fighter Squadron report. Crews describe lights blinking on and off, changing colors, flying formation with Allied aircraft approaching very closely. The report states we have encountered phenomena which we cannot explain, and they are agitating and keeping the crews on edge. And the AI says this is classic Foo Fighter behavior. Yeah, it's like these orbs, almost like they're tormenting these guys or something. Then it says page 15, pilot sightings began. Here we have December 14th to 15th, 1944, near Ernstein, large red light, approximately 2,000 feet altitude, moving east, estimated speed 200 mile per hour. December 16th to 17th of 44, near Bryceark, 5 or 6 flashing red and green lights, T-shaped formation, initially thought to be flak, later observed much closer behind the aircraft. Now, this is the very beginning of the war here. Additional to Foo Fighter reports, 23rd and 24th December 1944, reddish flames observed around 10,000 feet. Well, more of these fireball orbs is what it sounds like, and up there at 10,000 feet. Another sighting, same night. Glowing red object shot vertically upward. Changed appearance. Executed maneuver resembling an aircraft. Entered a dive and disappeared. Wow. I wonder what kind of appearance it changed into. December 26th and 27th, 1944. Crew observed 2 yellow flame-like streaks. Red balls of fire. Objects remained visible for roughly 10 seconds. Ground control reported no enemy aircraft nearby. Crew also reported feeling what they believed was prop wash, despite no aircraft being detected. So they're feeling this thing as it goes by them. I don't know, is that a gravity wave? Is that just the air being disturbed? I don't know. And then it says page 17, not fully visible in OCR, but continuation. The final page appears to continue witness statements from the 415th Night Fighter Squadron and likely contains additional observations of lights, red fireballs, and aerial phenomena similar to those described. That is really something. So there you have the original reports going clear back to 1944. Fun stuff. Stuff that we have heard rumored before, talked about. And I just can't see why they would keep this stuff locked up under top secret clearance for 81 years, 82 years. Still very fun stuff to look at. We'll do another one here before we wrap this up. I want to finish up here with this last file that I looked at. It's called General Correspondence of the Sandia Base folder, talking about these UFOs over our nuclear base out there in Sandia, New Mexico? Albuquerque, I guess, New Mexico. Weird stuff. Once again, 116 pages, marked secret, clear back to 1949. And rather than try to go through and read 116 pages of this stuff, I asked Gemini again if it would go ahead and give me a summary of some of the stuff. And it says, this file, DOWUAP DO17 General Correspondence of Sandia PDF, is a 116-page declassified collection titled UAP Reported at Sandia Base 1948 to 1950. Of course, back then they would have called them UFOs. Recently released by the Department of War under a transparency directive. While the first few pages contain routine base logistics and security inspection memos from April 1949, such as fixing gates, radio crystal issues, and base alert plans, the bulk of this 116-page dossier focuses heavily on military and scientific investigations into unidentified anomalous phenomena, specifically the mysterious green fireballs observed over sensitive nuclear weapons installations in New Mexico. And we've talked about these things before in the program, these green fireball UFOs, almost like ball lightning or something, I don't know. It says core contents of the 116-page dossier: official investigations of aerial phenomena, 1948 to 1950. The core of the folder consists of the summary of observations of aerial phenomena in the New Mexico area, December 1948 to May 1950, compiled by the Air Force of Special Investigations, OSI, 17th District, headquartered at Kirtland Air Force Base. It details multi-witness sightings by military pilots, security guards, and scientists of silent, high-speed, brilliant green, luminous objects flying over Sandia Base, Los Alamos, and the White Sands Proving Grounds. Scientific sampling and material analysis. The file documents early, highly secretive military scientific collaborations to determine if these objects were leaving physical or chemical traces. Notably, it includes an August 10, 1949 report titled An Attempt to Collect Airborne Particles Associated with the Fireball of July 24th by researchers William Crozier and Ben K. Seeley of the New Mexico School of Mines, investigating whether airborne copper or other particulate matter could be gathered following a major fireball incident. So you see, even clear back in 1948, 1949, 1950, they were looking for this UFO metamaterial that we've talked about. High-level scientific consultations. The correspondence traces meetings and conferences at Los Alamos and Sandia Base involving prominent academic and military figures. This includes extensive consulting with renowned meteoric expert Lincoln La Paz, who argued the objects were behaving contrary to natural meteors due to their flat trajectories and lack of sound, and document references to deliberations involving atomic scientists like Edward Teller and agencies like the Armed Forces Special Weapons Project. Yeah, not meteorites. They're flying along at a level path, perpendicular to the ground. Military security and countermeasures interspersed with scientific reports are operational correspondences detailing how the military attempted to secure the bases against these unexplained aerial incursions. This includes the implementation of visual observation networks, adjustments to base alert procedures, radar tracking attempts, and coordinating communication protocols between Sandia Base, Camp Campbell, and Washington, D.C. to ensure rapid reporting of anomalous events. So even though they couldn't really tell us what these things were, they were out there trying to figure this stuff out. So the government has had an interest in UFOs, and we go through this, and it's just letter after letter talking about this, trying to do experiments to try to recover any kind of material that could have been left over. So that tells me these things were a repeating phenomena that was happening quite a bit, and it was in close proximity to these nuclear facilities That's what really had him concerned. If this was some sort of a natural phenomena, then even more of a reason to know about this stuff, because they could be on the brink of disaster. We'll take a look at one last one here and finish this up. This last file I'm looking at dated June 2nd, 2026, so not 100% sure why this is in there, because it says unclassified at the very top. Office of the Undersecretary of War says. Summary on this tells me that this memorandum from the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, got to tell you, my spidey senses go off as soon as I hear that name, details a first-hand account from Witness 1, a U.S. federal law enforcement special agent regarding unidentified anomalous phenomena observed over 2 days in October 2023 in the western United States. Here's a summary of the events described. First night, Witness 1 was unable to see anything specific due to the location, though other teams reported seeing groups of strange lights miles away. Second night, first encounter, just before 7 p.m., Witness 1 and a colleague observed a large, silent, glowing ball about 20 feet or more in diameter hovering near a hillside. Through binoculars, it appeared to have a spindle touching the hill face below. It was visible for a minute or two before suddenly vanishing. That's weird. A glowing ball about 20 feet across diameter, hovering near a hillside, and then when they looked at it with binoculars, it says it appeared to have a spindle touching the hill face below. Maybe it's like taking a sample or something, I don't know. Subsequent sky anomalies. Approximately 20 minutes later, a similar object briefly lit up over another hillside several miles away. While lit, 3 evenly spaced red lights flew out of it, accompanied by a brief flash from over the horizon. The sequence repeated 20 minutes later, with an orange ball appearing in a different position, ejecting 3 red lights of vertical alignment. So we've got these orbs coming out of orbs, or lights coming out of these lit orbs. Later encounter, the hovering vehicle-like object, the car illusion, it says. Hours later, while driving to another location, the agents approached what initially appeared to be a car with a broken taillight cover, having one round red light and one square white light. Anomalous movement. As an oncoming vehicle approached, this object silently veered off the road without kicking up dust, bouncing or interacting with the terrain, appearing to completely hover. It vaguely reminded the witness of a Toyota Prius. When the agents stopped their vehicles, the object's lights turned off, and a darker mass flew away. So here we go. We're getting into this shape-shifting stuff again, almost like it's camouflaging. And then it says, lastly here, floating material and semi-transparency. An hour or two later, while stopped, the agents observed thick, spiderweb-like material and dust floating in front of them. Within this dust, they saw the same object floating vertically 15 to 20 feet in the air with its lights off. The object's borders were difficult to define, and it was semi-transparent, allowing the witness to see a star in the crest of a hill directly through it, resembling something viewed through water. I'm thinking that kind of has this wavy, overcast look to it. Maybe like we talk about these gravity waves and stuff. This is really something. Yeah, it's got a couple pages here talking about it, just repeating what we just said. This is some neat stuff. I mean, I have to admit, some of the stuff is from 50, 60 years ago. You kind of wonder how important it is today, other than that it shows the government was actually looking into this stuff. And then we have some of these more recent cases, like right here, where I guess these are federal agents, and they're seeing a variety of UFOs over a couple of days. They write a report, but then we're really kind of kept in the dark about the details of where they were at, when it was at. It just says Western United States. Well, that could be anywhere west of the Mississippi. I mean, for crying out loud. So it seems to me, you have like Arrow here, Arrow. You get a solid case witnessed by federal agents, and then what we have is a lack of details. I guess the more things change, the more they stay the same. Hey, if you like the program, don't forget to hit like, follow, subscribe. Doesn't cost a dime. Until next time, this is UFO Warning. Over and out.